Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys from Canada. And you know we love you, Africa, the Big C tribe. I didn't forget you guys, but Big C, there's no one we love more. You good old boys down south, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys on a beautiful January 30th, 2018, Big C?
I've been sitting around working out a few new moonshine recipes and stuff, trying to get some stuff right for the summer and everything. It's always time to experiment when things are slow and the things are not looking around for you and stuff. So this has just been a good day of recipe chasing.
Well, I tell you what, if they got recipes for moonshine that you can eat, it's almost like the edibles of the other stuff that Jeff Sessions made more difficult for the good old boys in all across the country to grow. But I know it keeps you relaxed from what I understand. And speaking of being relaxed, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, a lot of stuff going on in the world of sports and politics and how it all blends together. And I love the fact that we have, POTUS is having its first State of the Union tonight. And I hope no matter what people believe in, this country is still a great country. It doesn't mean the leadership is great. But I believe, and I may be wrong, but I believe President Trump tonight, one of the most important things to talk about is how there's no room for any type of sexual assault against women in this great country, because no patriotic American that stands for the flag would ever grab a woman by the vagina without her consent, Big C. I think he's going to speak very hard on that. I think with all the allegations going on with the collusion and hiding of evidence at Michigan State and other great universities around the country, and women coming forward saying they've been sexually assaulted in Hollywood and on Main Street and Wall Street, I think President Trump tonight will show all the women of this great country, in fact, all the women of the universe, that he is pro-women and there'll be no tolerance for any type of sexual assault committed against women under his watch. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, what a great time for a universal platform to have. You know, when we look at all the allegations that have occurred in sports and allegations that have occurred in politics and allegations that have occurred in mainstream business and Hollywood life, Charlton.
Yeah.
With all these assaults on women and young girls in America, Charlton, that have occurred in the past couple of decades that he's been highly active in, Charlton, in situations of that nature. What a better time, and even backing politicians, Charlton, that were accused of these sexual misconducts against young girls, Charlton, and he backed them, you know, in their political campaigns. Yeah. You know, but this is the forefront, Charlton, where you have the nation in a spotlight tonight, listening and hinging on every word that he says. And, you know, he talks about a broad array of things, Charlton. Yeah. But as America, you know, America has come together in a lot of unity, Charlton, against these sexual predators and misconduct by a lot of people here in the U.S., Charlton, over the past year. And this, you know, what better time than the leader of this great country to come out and say that there's zero tolerance for that in our society. Not to sit there and talk about financial growth, that America always has financial growth, Charlton. Don't sit there and talk about unemployment down. Unemployment it fluctuates just like the weather. It's up and down all the time, Charlton. People even fall out of the job market. But let's talk about something that's steadily there every day. Now, you know, people want to keep talking about Colin Kaepernick saying that he didn't exist and his message got off track. What this is part of Colin Kaepernick's message, Charlton, about social justice reform. Social justice reform is giving women equal rights, Charlton. Not berating women when they make these allegations against these people, Charlton, that they have done something improper to them. Respecting the woman's right, listening to her and saying that she is telling the truth, Charlton. Not saying, well, you know, how can this man have done this to you and no one saw it? Well, they don't always bring a crowd, Charlton. Every situation is not a gang scenario that arises, okay? But when they've done something improper to a woman, that her foundation of what she said has to be treated with the utmost respect and sincerity, Charlton.
I agree with that, and that's why I think that no matter what people think of President Trump, I do think he's decent enough to stand up for the women of this great country, the land of the free, the home of the brave, especially some of the women who know of all the accusations that have happened against men in this society, and some of them still believe in the president. I don't think he would ever turn his back, especially on the Republican women who still stand by Donald Trump and saying that he's a decent man. And they even had some lady, I believe, an evangelical that was on television out of Utah just the other day saying that Donald Trump is also going to stand up for the rights of women. And I think tonight, I think when we mix Hollywood and we look at athletics and how it all blends together, Oprah Winfrey, when she had their last chance to speak on a national stage just about a month ago, and she was down in Los Angeles, and she had this great speech, and it got a rounding ovation. And it's talked about pretty much no more. No more should we have to go through this. And I know for all the young girls, whether you have a daughter or a mother or a sister or a wife, doesn't matter, best friend, for all the young girls that are going to watch the president's State of the Union, I think tonight they'll be, for the first time, able to say he's on my side. Because not only is he going through his own accusations, but it doesn't mean, like he said, if they're not true, then you can speak against it, okay? If he's going through his own accusations, yet he's still able to stand up for these college girls, for the U.S. Olympic women that were also assaulted by Nassar, and he's been sentenced this month. I think it comes at it's a similar moment in the time of the Oval Office to say to all women that you do matter. Not only do you matter, I'm going to be your biggest advocate. I think that will be bigger in his speech tonight, Big C, than anything about the economy. Does that make any sense, or could I be off base, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you have to have inclusion whenever you speak to the masses in America. And inclusion is that we believe you, that we stand by you.
Yeah.
And we won't forget you, Charlton. We won't allow these things to happen to you, Charlton. It's like, when I hear this president speak, and we talk about the mass shootings that have been in America this year.
Yeah.
We've had 14 mass shootings in America this year, Charlton.
Wow.
14. I'll take that back. Excuse me, I misquoted that. There has been 18 mass shootings in America this year, Charlton.
Wow.
18.
Wow.
And in those 18 mass shootings, Charlton, only 4 of those shootings came from people from those Muslim countries, Charlton.
Wow.
Only 4. So there's been 14 mass shootings in America in the last year, Charlton.
Yeah.
That have been initiated by Americans, not people that have come in from Muslim countries, Charlton.
Yeah.
But by Americans. But we don't hear that when the president speaks. So when we talk about inclusion,
yeah,
and being biased towards something that's unfactual, Charlton,
yeah,
you have to state the facts. Just like when we look at these women that have brought these allegations of sexual misconduct against men.
Yeah.
They bring the facts, Charlton. They don't bring speculation. They bring the facts. And that's why you have to believe these women, Charlton, because, you and I have spoke about it many times. Many more than one person knows something. You no longer have a secret.
Exactly.
And when you have dozens upon dozens of young women coming out, and even middle-aged women, Charlton, making the same statement.
Yeah.
And one of the most disheartening ones, Charlton, was one of the young gymnasts. It started with her when she was 6 years old with Nassar.
Wow.
She was a 6-year-old at Nassar's residence when he exposed himself to her. She's 6 years old, Charlton. You think about that. Anybody who listens to our program, and I know there's a lot of people who feel that we're well off base when we start talking, but there's no 6-year-old anywhere that should have a grown man exposing himself to her. It's not right in any denomination,
yeah,
any religion, any race. It is not right.
Yeah.
And for him to do this and have the gall to keep doing it, and no one can say, well, he needed treatment. No, he did not. He needed to be eliminated,
yeah,
just like he's been. He needed to be eliminated because there's no treatment for a grown man who wants to expose himself to a 6-year-old girl and feel that it's okay because she doesn't have the ability to tell somebody.
Yeah.
Or who's going to believe her over him, and she's just making up stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's credible.
Yeah.
That's the problem, Charlton, is that just like with the president, just like all these pedophiles, just like all these sexual abusers, Charlton, they have credibility.
Yep.
And in the mainstream thought of things, women don't have credibility. That's what bothers you the most.
Yeah.
Is that these women can come out in droves and tell how they've been sexually abused, tell how they've been sexually mistreated.
Yep.
And everyone wants to say, well, she has no credibility. I heard, as you speak about one of those evangelicals saying, well, this woman was a stripper,
lady of the evening, etc. Yeah, adult actress.
Adult actress.
Yeah.
So how can she have any credibility?
Right.
Well, she had the same credibility as this woman that made that statement's husband, who was probably buying the videotapes of her. Okay.
Yeah.
And had them hid in the garage.
Yeah.
So, she had credibility. Don't judge somebody by what they do for work. You have to base it on the honesty that they exude, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have that same job in America. That people say, well, everybody's not a judge.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody's not an attorney. There's ditch diggers probably with more credibility than some of them.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
But you can't take somebody's credibility based on their employment. Just because she had a certain type of employment doesn't mean she's uncredible. Because she was honest enough to admit the type of work that she was in.
Yeah.
She wasn't lying about that. So she had credibility.
And that's a very good point you brought up. And that's why I think at some point in time that people that say, oh, I don't want to hear that anymore, that's probably because they're guilty of doing it at some time in their life. What person wouldn't want to keep young people safe? So I just hope, and I talked to some of my Republican and also Democratic friends, and they talk about what's going to happen in the State of the Union. Yeah, our country is very divided, but my hope at least is that Donald Trump will make a 180 tonight, and he will atone for his own sins, and that he also sign legislation to, number one, for colleges. I don't know if they can do it for high schools, but at least for colleges, you gotta post any type of assault record or burglary record so that people can see, just like they look up what's on your student website. They need to have a site where you can go and see how many assaults have happened on that campus, whether it's someone from the Big Ten or the Pac-12 or the SEC or the independent colleges. It's all out there. If they can advertise why you should come to their school, they also need to advertise what you got to look out for in going to that school. So I hope that President Trump will do what a lot of people don't think he has the guts to do, which is to come out and shout down the sexual predators in our society, whether they're in what industry, it doesn't matter. I think if POTUS can make that stand, not just to his base, but to the entire universe of people, I think that would go a long way for helping every young girl know that at least my president stands behind me, is nonpartisan, is non-racial, is non-religious, it's just decency. And we got to make it a law so we protect young people. Big C, with that final thought, I just want to get your thought on one more thing. I know that there's so many people that talk about the sports and the politics angle. I even hear Fran Tarkenton having some thoughts on the Super Bowl, and we'll get into that later, and whether or not people should stand for the national anthem. I wonder if they ask these same men their thoughts on people who commit sexual assault. They stand for the national anthem. Doesn't President Trump stand for the national anthem? Has it stopped him from having sexual lawsuits against him? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's amazing, Charlton, the people who try to deflect from what's really going on use another angle to say what's right and wrong in America. Every sexual predator that we've seen, Charlton, that's been alleged and accused, have all been people of the flag, as they say, that stand for the national anthem.
Isn't that something?
So, it's just like, as we say, what's the MO of a predator?
Yeah.
Do they have a sign to say, hey, I'm a sexual predator, I'm a child molester, I'm a rapist? Is anybody walking around with that on the lapel of their shirt or their jacket, Charlton, so that you know to avoid them?
Yeah.
It's like when you have people who register as a sex offender, when they have to register with the local authorities, Charlton. They don't hang it on outside their door at their house, I'm a registered sex offender. They don't put it on their mailbox.
No.
They don't go post flyers up and down the street saying, I'm a registered sex offender and I live at this address. This is the problem with these people who want to keep deflecting from what the real problem is, Charlton. Let's bring up something minuscule.
Yeah.
Okay? Standing for the national anthem. Now, you look at this. There's going to be 106 players, I believe it is, dressed for the Super Bowl, okay?
Yeah.
106. And you're telling me that this 106 players are the pulse of America as far as how America should go, Charlton? Is that whatever they do is going to dictate what America does? I don't think so, Charlton, because other than you viewing them as a player with a jersey on the field, Charlton,
right,
and some of them being huge individuals, frequently large, when they're not on the field,
yeah,
you wouldn't recognize who they are.
No.
And the minority ones, Charlton, the guys who sit in those luxury suites,
Yeah.
they're not going to be inviting them by their house. Okay,
Yeah.
let's be realistic about that. So to sit there and say that standing for the national anthem, and I'm not being unpatriotic, Charlton, but if it's so patriotic, tell me, Charlton, why did the government omit it from the education system in the schools?
Yeah.
Now, let's not talk about these grown men at work, because under no other job other than professional sports in America are you demanding, and all of them are majority minorities, participants, okay?
Yeah.
Are you demanding that these people stand for the national anthem? And yet the national government, Charlton, omitted it from the school system.
Yeah.
The children do not have to stand for it.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Big C. So I know that there are times when people say they just want some entertainment. And just like you tell, if you look at some of these predators, whether it was a Matt Lauer, he was shouted out and called out and got let go by NBC. Was Bill O'Reilly at Fox News and all the garbage that's gone on against women. I think these guys also stood for the flag, but I never hear someone saying that they were not patriotic. Okay, they were considered patriotic Americans. So in the eyes of some people,
think about it.
yeah,
Matt Lauer were down broadcasting the last Olympics in Rio and the previous ones prior to that, Charlton.
Yeah.
So, here it is at American events. Bill O'Reilly, standing there about Fox News talking about all American this, all American that.
Yeah.
And yet these guys are having these lawsuits that they're settling left and right. We see Steve Wynn, who's the financier for the Republican National Convention, resign his position.
Yeah.
And he was standing for the American flag, So, but when we sit there, and all these people who are after these athletes for not standing for the flag, saying that they're anti-American.
Yeah.
I want to hear them all back, these sexual predators, Charlton, and saying that they're pro-American, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because they stand for the flag and they stand for molestation, Charlton. That's what I want to hear them say.
That's a great point that we got to bring up. And ironically, something that I got to bring up, and it just dawned on me in the last couple of days when I was talking to some of my Caucasian friends about what this thing is about the flag or not respecting America. Black Americans have fought in every war this country's had. But would you believe that it has been on the backs of black Americans that we got the civil rights movement? It wasn't the fact that white Americans decided that they wanted to get away with the unfair advantage, with the Jim Crow laws that were out there. That was started by a lot of African Americans. And of course, as that began, the push, other people joined into the cause also. But it's always been the ones affected that spoke out. But I got to also bring this point up. When we look at sexual assault, if you think about it, I know our part in this conversation, Big C, is we've advocated that everybody, call 911. There's no room for a sexual assault in our society. Now a lot of people talk about it so much that it's all over the news in Hollywood. I'm not saying we did it first, but I'm saying we're the most persistent at it. And now, when I hear people saying that the NFL players are pushing for, protesting, they're not protesting anything that's not justified. And all they're asking for is equal opportunity in the criminal justice system. As young black fathers, black men, if we don't stand up for ourselves, then who in the world is going to do it? That's why I'm so proud of black men standing up, even though mainstream always tried to taint it as something sinister, Big C. And that's why I'm proud of the black society, because it's taken the black people to stand up for the black vote. It's taken black people to stand up for the right to live where you want to live, to even fight in the war. We had to petition to join the military. That was even segregated up until 1949. It was black Americans that was part of the Tuskegee Institute and the Tuskegee experiment where they were injected with syphilis by the government and to cohabit with whoever they wanted without knowing. That was black Americans that did that. It's part of the Buffalo Soldiers all the time. You can see throughout history, black Americans have always been the vanguards and the ones that started things that created social justice. So these guys right now in the NFL, they're just doing what was taught a few hundred years ago by other people who had great vision, Big C. I think they should be complimented, Big C, not condoned by it. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the backbone of this country and what it was built on, okay?
Yeah.
This was a country that was built on not standing for a flag. Think about it.
Yep.
When the separation came from England, and abolitionists and all of these people wanted to fight.
Yep.
They stood against a country.
Yeah.
And they stood against what that country stood for.
Yeah.
And that's what made America, by having separate thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's okay. The American history is acceptable. But by having someone not believing in what American history is doing for us right now, that's standing against the country. It is not. It is standing for one part of what's not right. It's not against everything. It's about social injustice.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the civil rights, Charlton, and everybody has always tried to figure out how did the civil rights movement get started and where did it stem from.
Yeah.
And I was sitting back doing some research the other day, and it stemmed from an incident that occurred back in the 40s down in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Okay? A young black male from Chicago was sent down by his mother to spend the summer with his family, named Emmett Till.
Yeah.
Emmett Till allegedly whistled at a white woman, okay?
Yep.
As she was walking out of a store. 2 nights later, these 3 men came into his cousin's house, kidnapped this young boy. His body was found in a river 2 or 3 days later, badly beaten and bloated beyond recognition, okay?
Yeah.
His mother did an open casket service because she said the world needed to see what these people had done to her son. Now, were these people patriots, Charlton? Were these people who stood for the flag?
Yeah.
And these 3 men admitted that they had murdered this young boy.
Yeah.
And yet they were not convicted, Charlton. And the woman who said that he whistled at her a year ago passed away. And on her deathbed, she admitted that she lied.
Yeah.
She lied, Charlton, and said this young boy did not whistle at her.
Yeah.
But she knew that these guys would do something to him if she said that. She admitted this on her deathbed, that she had this young boy killed for no reason.
Yeah.
Because you could do that as a white person in America, is that you could do something negative to a black individual and no one cared. Just like now when you talk about social and justice reform.
Yeah.
White people try to find a way to do something against blacks that is unjustified.
Yeah.
And that's what this is, Charlton. When you say they're standing against the flag and against the military, they never said that, Charlton. This is a white saying. This is made up. This is like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
Let's say something to get everybody riled up. Let's say they're against the military.
Yeah.
All the blacks that are in the military, and as you admitted, served in the military, Charlton, had to fight to get into the military.
Isn't that something?
Never been treated equally.
Yeah.
They're not against the military, Charlton. They died to get in it. Well, our president fought to stay out of the military.
To get out of it. Isn't that true?
Okay?
Yeah.
So when these people say that blacks are against the military, they need to look and see how many blacks have died in the military for this country.
Yeah.
And this country never wanted them, Charlton.
Isn't that something? You know? I'm glad you brought that up, Big C.
Don't say that blacks are against the military because they take a stance for social injustice.
Yeah.
They take a stance and they're against being treated unequitably.
Yeah.
That's the point. If you walk, it's just like the young ladies, Charlton, that have all come out against this sexual injustice that they've received. They're against being treated unjustly and unequally.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they're against. So anybody can take their stance and say, well, they're anti-American. You know, they're against the flag. They're against law enforcement.
Right.
No one is saying that about these young women who have been sexually abused. No one is saying they're anti-American.
No.
Everybody is saying they're brave and strong for speaking up against social injustice.
Yeah.
You think about this. If I'm white and I'm speaking up against social injustice, it'll get somebody fired, get somebody put in prison.
Yeah.
But if I'm black and I'm speaking up against social injustice, I'm speaking up against the military, and I'm speaking up against the flag.
Isn't that something? And I'm glad you brought that point up. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Big C, I think something that's so prominent in our society now, and I tell young black boys that I mentor when we do the basketball leagues here in California, that sometimes just do what's right, protect your other. You know, respect your elders, protect your brothers and sisters, the ones that are just teammates and also in your biological relationships. But I got to bring up, I won't call this guy my hero, but he's someone that I loved watching play back in the day as an athlete. And it doesn't mean he's right or wrong. It doesn't mean that what I'm going to say is right or wrong. But we have a right to our opinion. We have a right to freedom of speech. And everybody doesn't have to agree or disagree. but I was just going over some things about Fran Tarkenton and how they were asking his thoughts on the Super Bowl coming up in the year since the games in Minnesota. He's one of the most storied quarterbacks in the history of that organization. But they asked his opinion on politics in the NFL. Now, here's a white guy who made a living by handing the ball off to Chuck Foreman, throwing the ball to Ahmad Rashad at the time, and several other great African-American players, and had what's called a purple people eater defense, and I think most all of them were African-American. But if he thinks that they were taking a stand to disrespect the American flag, that shows he's an ignorant person. All ignorance means that you don't read. If he read this, there's no way he could make the statements that I was thought that he was quoted for making. Long story short, he thought that you can't really be an American and have a disrespect for the flag if you're going to go out and show it on the field. That's un-American. I just wonder what he does about sexual assault when players are accused of sexual assault. As long as they're standing, is he okay with that? And I just always want to challenge, and I'm glad people say it, black or white. When a white man tells black men that you should stand up and don't say anything, irrespective of your platform to say it, but then they'll come around and voice their opinion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when Fran Tarkenton came into the NFL thing, Charlton, there was a thing called segregation, okay?
Yep.
That his teammates couldn't live in his neighborhood.
Did he know that?
Well, sometimes, CTE takes a little longer
yep.
to kick in with others.
Yeah.
And you have a tendency to forget about the social injustice that was going on when you came into the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's what Fran Tarkenton has forgotten about, the social injustice that went on in the 60s when he was a mainstream of the NFL, Charlton. He was in Minneapolis as well as he was in New York. Two cities that had a lot of social injustice.
Yeah.
And he's going to say that, everything was fine. It's always fine in your neighborhood, Charlton. And I want to go back to this thing with these young ladies that were assaulted, okay?
Yeah.
They were white, okay? Majority of them were white, and they stood up against their accuser, okay? And that was all American.
Yeah.
And when you look at the NFL players, the majority have been African American who have taken this stance against social injustice.
Yeah.
These young ladies took a stance against social injustice, is what they did, and they're praised as heroes.
Yeah.
Okay. And against one individual.
Yeah.
These African American football players are taking a stance against social injustice against groups.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're being judged as anti-American.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering about and the heinous crimes of sexual assault against these young ladies is horrendous. Okay.
Yeah.
They were taking stances against people losing their lives and being incarcerated for an inappropriate amount of time, Charlton.
Yep.
That's what the NFL players are doing. And I'm trying to figure out what's un-American about protesting someone who's losing their lives when they're walking down the street unarmed.
Yeah.
I want to know what's un-American about that. Is that supposed to be accepted? Because we don't see that. That's not a normal thing in life, Charlton, to be walking down the street and lose your life.
Exactly.
That's not American. That's anti-American, Charlton.
Yep.
This is supposed to be the land of the free, home of the brave, Charlton.
Yeah.
The innocent until proven guilty. Presumption of innocence, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not because you're walking down the street, I'm going to kill you because I think that you're guilty. Okay? Larry Nassar got 20 years of privilege to be a pedophile, okay?
Yeah.
He got 20 years of privilege. And for 10 years it was known about. It was documented and hidden. He had 10 years of protection, Charlton.
Yeah.
He had 20 years of freedom, 10 years of protection doing what he did.
Yeah.
And no one said that anybody who protected him, I have not heard one news outlet saying that these people were un-American. I haven't heard that they said that the former president of Michigan State was un-American. I haven't heard that the former athletic director of Michigan State was un-American.
No.
I haven't heard that the president, Mark Emmert, of the NCAA is un-American for protecting Larry Nassar.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
For protecting a rapist and a pedophile and sex offender. No one has said these people are un-American for doing this.
Yeah, that's true. And one more thing about the great, Tarkenton, he did mention that he wasn't happy with the way Kaepernick was criticized, and that the NFL was criticized even by his quote-unquote friend, President Trump. You can have lady friend you want, but most guys I know, they don't have friends that are pedophiles or guys that assault women or brag about grabbing women by the vagina. And I wonder if Fran Tarkenton were to sit with President Trump and have his own daughter or wife or mother at some time in the presence of any man that made fun about grabbing his daughter or grandchildren by the vagina, and you call that guy your friend. And if that's your friend, what's your enemy have to do to become your enemy? And that's the one thing, whether you're black or white. But I do find a lot of my white friends, they keep saying this is the flag, it's disrespecting the flag, but they knowingly call a guy their friend who's out grabbing women by the vagina. And I don't understand how they say that they need to be spoken to or respected. I hope that, Big C, that make any sense? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to understand, birds of a feather flock together. That's an old saying I used to hear from my grandparents. Birds
Yeah.
of a feather flock together.
Yep.
So when you're friends with somebody, and I have some friends that do the things that I do,
Yeah.
but we're not hanging around the school ground, Charlton.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We're not hanging out in the park unless we're playing chess.
Yeah.
Okay? That's it.
Yeah.
So when we talk about birds of a feather flock together, when you defend somebody
Yeah.
vehemently, okay, you have the same tendencies that they have.
Yeah.
Drunks can hang with drunks
Yeah.
and feel comfortable, okay?
Yep.
They can. Athletes hang around athletes because you're that same cloth.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You're that same mentality. Well, when you look at gamblers, we've all seen these poker tournaments on TV.
Yeah.
They're all in the same bread, Charlton. They think the same.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, when you go to jail and you visit a prison or a jailhouse,
Yeah.
these people in there have the same type of background, Charlton. They generally committed some of the similar crimes to be in the same institution.
Yep.
Okay? Politicians are the same. They have the same beliefs, all right?
Yeah.
So when you think about people who prey on people, Charlton, a racist is a racist.
Yeah.
Okay? They know each other.
Yep.
You know, and when you think about people who are in certain industries, Charlton, that they familiarize with each other, it's just like with Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And everybody knew what Harvey was doing.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody was going to tell on Harvey because Harvey was too powerful.
Yeah.
It's just like when we look at POTUS and everybody who's worked for him over the years.
Yeah.
And his biggest word was, I'll sue you.
Yeah.
I have more money than you, so I can outlast you in court, so you're going to lose because my pocket is deeper.
Now, if you're any man...
Now that the pocket
Yeah.
is the American public,
Yeah.
that threat doesn't hold volition any longer. It doesn't.
Now, Big C, you just brought up that fact, and I love when you say things, it just trips my mind to think about something. Imagine whether it's Michigan State or the women in Hollywood or the girls on the U.S. Olympic team. Imagine some old, powerful man telling you, if you tell anybody you're going to be in trouble, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue your family. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your credibility. No one's going to believe you. They're going to believe me because I'm old and white and I got the money and you don't. And that just happens to be the profile of most of these guys out there. You can Google that too. I know it happens in every society, but for the most part, just Google the pictures of these people that are committing all these crimes. And I know we got to put a stop to it. And most likely it's going to take black Americans to do it because we tend to start at everything that's made change in this country. So Big C, again, I think POTUS will talk about no assault allowed against women. I think it's going to put in some strong legal loopholes that people cannot get out of, and you can't pay people off because they come forward. I think he'll do something tonight to make women feel a little bit safer in this country. At least I'm hoping so. I want to turn our thoughts just a little bit to the world of the NBA. And I know we talked about what's happening in the transition of power and Blake Griffin and Doc Rivers and you know, Chris Paul. You look about $300 million is freed up by getting rid of Chris Paul and getting rid of, you know, Blake Griffin with the Clippers. And DeAndre Jordan may be next. The Clippers are talking, I just hear it's in the talks that they may be trying to relocate to Seattle, Washington, because no matter what happens in LA, they will always be second fiddle to the LA Lakers. Do you find that they're trying to free up to make people less interested so the move won't hurt as much? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if it's about the move, Charlton. I think it's more about building a team from the ground up, bringing in some veteran players that are established in the NBA. I mean, there's always been talk about LeBron. Anytime there's movement talk, LeBron is always in the forefront.
Yeah.
LeBron, you know, because he's a free agent at the end of this season in Cleveland.
Yeah.
You think about his interactive in the entertainment industry, Charlton, in Hollywood. He's doing commercials. He's doing movies. He's directing, Charlton.
Yeah.
He owns property, several pieces of property in Los Angeles. LeBron is a very highly intelligent individual, Charlton. Not just an athlete. He's a highly intelligent professional male.
Yeah.
Wherever he goes, you're going to have instant credibility. There's a plethora of free agents that are going to be available, Charlton, at the end of this season. Paul George is out there, and everyone has talked about Paul George would like to go to L.A.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Lakers are not that attractive of a situation, Charlton. Who do you get rid of to bring somebody in at the Lakers, and how do you make that chemistry work? That's a tough thing. Everybody says the ball kid. He's not the answer in L.A.
Yeah.
The more attractive situation in Los Angeles, Charlton, would be the Clippers, because you have cleaned so much cap space.
Yeah.
You can pay two solid veterans to come in. You keep DeAndre Jordan. You need that stopper in the middle. You got a mainstay. Not many people have a post player who can dominate.
Yeah.
DeAndre Jordan can still do that. He's the longest tenured Clipper that there is.
Yeah.
You bring in a LeBron. You bring in a Paul George. You have instant credibility, Charlton, of two all-stars.
Yeah.
In your lineup. You know, you have two guys that can play the 2 and the 3 position, or even the 4 on the floor. So now all of a sudden you got to do is get yourself a point guard who can handle the ball. Charlton, there's many of them out there in the NBA.
Yeah.
They will be available. Chris Paul may be available. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you bring in a stable point guard. Now all of a sudden you have a foundation. You have 3 key components. Everybody's talking about having 3 key components in building a franchise.
Yeah.
You have it with DeAndre Jordan. You have it with Paul George, and you have it with the King.
Yeah.
That's the 3 components that you need right there. Now you got a bunch of role players that will play for you.
Yeah.
Everybody's game will step up, because you don't want to be lagging and having LeBron chastising you.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, that's a good point, Big C.
I look at how this organization has been moved. Not only that, Charlton, you got Jerry West as a consultant.
Yeah.
You think about when the Warriors became good. Who was a consultant with the Warriors?
Jerry.
Jerry West.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Jerry West was the consultant. So you have all the key elements in place if you decide to pull the trigger on this deal, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got Jerry West as a consultant. Now, he knows who to bring in and fit together to build a franchise. He's done this on a couple occasions with the Lakers and the Warriors. Even the Grizzlies, Charlton, he brought them to prominence after they were dismal up in Vancouver and they went to Memphis.
Yeah.
He made them relevant in the NBA. So Jerry West, to have him in-house with a lot of cap space, Charlton, that's the place you might want to look at next year in the NBA, is the Clippers.
Well, you bring up the name Jerry West and how much he's meant in the basketball universe, Big C. And this guy obviously knows what he's doing. Whether the Clippers are moving or staying, they are clearing cap room for something. Everybody's looking for that next flavor to come and make their organization great. But I look at the Clippers right now. They're not really in a bad spot in the Pacific Division, but as far as the 8th, they're the 9th seed right now. Golden State's 40-10, and they're 14.5 games ahead of the Clippers that are 25-24. Just barely above 500, playing at a 5-10 clip. The Lakers are 19-30. I look at Phoenix 17-33, a long way away from when Charles Barkley played back in the day. And the Kings at 15-34. That's a long ways away from when Chris Webber played back in the day in Sacramento. So even if you're in the NBA universe, only so many players can come make a difference. No matter who goes to any team in the Pacific Division, they're not getting past Golden State over the next 3 or 4 years. I believe they have one more season at the Coliseum in Oakland, and then in 2020, I believe they tip off at the new arena, the Chase Arena over in San Francisco, which is going to be just a gorgeous arena. But more important than that, it's going to be the new sexy place for new guys to want to come. Not only can they come to a great organization, there'll be more cap space, but as long as they keep 3 guys, they got to keep Curry, they got to keep Durant, and they got to keep Thompson, because those guys can shoot the lights out. Draymond Green's a good defender, but he could be expendable. He's not the 3rd best player on the team anymore. And after that, there's always some room for somebody else. Even if LeBron goes to LA, Big C, he's not going to get past Golden State. He couldn't do it when he was younger at Cleveland, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, everybody will have their day in the sun eventually in the NBA. LeBron has had success with 2 different organizations.
Yeah.
And it's hard to run the gauntlet that you have with Golden State in a 7-game series. you know, you can always win a game here and there, but to win 4 out of 7, you know, that's a tough road against Golden State. To build an organization, like I said, you have to build an organization with the right players, and that's what the Clippers are seeking to do.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to be LeBron whenever they go somewhere. You know, it's going to be he and a couple of other players, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how they mesh together. You know, not always will a team become instantly successful.
Yeah.
That's the thing you look at when you're putting together an organization.
Yep.
Is how will they get together over time. I mean, we saw that with Oklahoma City this year. Everybody was saying, what's wrong with OKC?
Yeah.
You know, now they're on the verge of being the 3rd seed in the West. Right now they're sitting in 4th, just a game and a half out.
Yeah.
But they can easily move up into 3rd. I don't know if they'll make it to 2nd because you got Houston and Golden State sitting there, but they can be right behind those two.
Yeah.
So, you know, with the right mesh of players and given the right amount of time, Charlton, you go on a 7-8 game winning streak, you automatically move up statistically.
Yeah.
To put the right team together there in Los Angeles,
it
can be done.
Yeah.
I mean, because not only now are you just facing the guys more than twice a year, and that's all that Golden State and Cleveland would play is twice a year.
Yeah.
Now when you're facing this team a dozen times during the season, Charlton, now you have a better handle on what to expect from this team and how to play them.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's exciting. It's great to talk about. And I know there are people who say LeBron James has been to the finals from the Eastern Conference the last 7 years in a row. Could it be 8? When I watched the Golden State and Boston game, and I watched Kyrie Irving and Steph Curry go toe-to-toe, mano a mano, these two guys, Curry hit for 49, and I think Irving had somewhere in the mid-30s. But 37. These two guys, Big C, and I'm going to contrast with Chris Paul. And when Chris Paul was supposed to be the savior in L.A., give Chris Paul the ball with 10 seconds left. You're not confident he's going to hit the winning shot if you're down by 1 in Game 7 because he never did it. He never got there. If I look at Steph Curry, I know he can do it because he's done it. If I look at Kyrie Irving, I know he can do it because he's done it. I know LeBron James has done it also, okay? But I think that sexiness of having LeBron in the finals, of course people like that, but let me ask your thoughts. If you had a chance to just mix it up, instead of seeing Golden State beat up on Cleveland again or whatever happens, Boston looks pretty intriguing, a Boston-Golden State matchup, and they're also going to get, you know, Hayward back too. I want to get your thoughts on those 2 point guards that can dominate the game, and it's not just about LeBron and the Cavaliers, it's about that team that Boston brings. I think they have a great chance to at least get 2 games from Golden State because they're going to win one in Boston, they would win one at Golden State. I still think Golden State wins that series, but I think that's more intriguing than Cleveland winning 1 game in the series against the Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you only looked at that from a 1-game perspective. You got to look at that from a 7-game perspective. And when you look at the depth of a Golden State, Boston doesn't match up well with the depth of a Golden State. Kyrie Irving has played against Golden State for 3 consecutive years, Charlton, and he's only come out with 1 championship.
Yeah.
And he's been that same player in all 3 of those championship runs over those 7-game series, Charlton. He is a master of the basketball.
Yeah.
But it's the depth of Boston is what you're looking at in totality here.
Yeah.
And you look at this roster in Golden State, they've been there.
Yep.
A lot of players come into a championship series and they're enamored, Charlton, that they're awestruck because they've never been in that neighborhood before.
Yeah.
And there's not enough depth in Boston that's going to run a 7-game series with Golden State. Now, you saw what happened in this game.
Yep.
You know, Steph Curry outscored the rest of his teammates, Charlton, in this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
By 1 point. He outscored the rest of his teammates by 1 point. So you think about what's going to happen when you got a 7-game series and you know that KD is going to get hot. You know that Klay Thompson's going to get hot. You know Iguodala's going to give you his points off the bench as well as West.
Yeah.
And you're going to get some from McGee.
Yeah.
Draymond Green is going to get into double figures.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the Golden State Warriors in a 7-game series, Charlton, with only 1 player scoring, 51% of the points.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that happen. So you think about it, if you couldn't catch up to this team and 1 player scored 51% of the points, how are you going to stand the 7-game series against them, John?
Yeah, that's a good point you got to bring up. But I want to also say hello to my Canadian brethren, because the Toronto, when you look at Toronto, what the Raptors have done, they're in the 2nd place in the Eastern Conference Atlantic Division. They're 33-15. Boston's only 35-15. They're just a game back of Boston. And I know we talk a lot about Cleveland. Cleveland's right now 29-19 out of the Central Division in the East. And we talk about Boston. Miami, Miami stopped Boston's win streak at one time. They're 28-21. So they're good out of the Southeast. But with DeMar DeRozan up in Toronto, I think the thing that counts against them, and maybe people don't want to believe this, but the NBA having all their teams inside the United States except for Toronto Raptors. We know it used to be the Vancouver Grizzlies at one time before they became Memphis. I think there's not a push to get the calls. And I know Casey's mentioned this before, but not too poignantly. They're not going to get the calls on the Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals that maybe Cleveland would get, or maybe that Boston would get, Big C. I know that's not popular to say, but do you think there's a little bit of national bias as opposed to wanting a Canadian team to win an NBA championship, Big C? That make any sense?
Well, Charlton, it's hard to see that hardware go outside the country.
Yeah.
But that's what people look at. And, I mean, Toronto has great fanfare. They have as great a fan base
Amazing.
as anybody in the NBA.
Yeah.
But, this is one of those national treasures, national pastimes, the NBA.
Yeah.
And there's so many teams that have not been competitive in the States, Charlton, that are in the NBA that's never made that run to the finals. That's what you look at. It's almost like when the Blue Jays won the World Series back-to-back back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And everybody saying, America's pastime has left the country.
Up in Skydome. Yeah.
When they won the World Series back-to-back in 92, 93, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And so, this is what they look at with the NBA. It's going to be hard to let that trophy go outside the continent, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, when you allow a team to be competitive, and Toronto has built a team, and when they brought in Serge Ibaka through trade last year from OKC,
yep.
And that was the first big move that left OKC. It wasn't Durant, it was Serge Ibaka.
Yeah.
And he has helped solidify this Raptors team. They're a lot better this year with Serge on the team than what they were last year. And when they're nipping at the heels of first place in the East, they've made some real insurgents into the NBA lore.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have to be something to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
No one knows if Cleveland is going to be able to recover to dominate the East in the playoffs, Charlton. If you don't dominate during the regular season, it's not a guarantee that you'll dominate. And you get tired after a while when you're always chasing. You want to play from front sometimes.
Yeah.
But they've been chasing the past 2 years.
They have been. And one thing with Cleveland, Isaiah Thomas was caught in the media saying that this defense hasn't been that good even when I was out. Now they're trying to make it my fault that we're not good on defense. There's some issues going on there with the chemistry of that team. I want to ask you about one more team in the Western Conference. We talk about Golden State. We talk about Houston. And then there's this small team down in Texas called the San Antonio Spurs. They're 33-19. They're 4 games back. Okay, they're not that far off, but they're kind of irrelevant because they don't have that young player that's sexy anymore. They always kind of dealing with someone who got hurt, or maybe Leonard wants to get out of there. Who knows? But Pop will have that team playing. I just think they played past their prime, Big C. They'll get a playoff spot, but they're not going to beat anyone. They may even get beat in the first round, Big C, because they just seem to be a little bit old and hard to hang on, Big C. That make any sense, or would they even be someone that strikes fear into the minds of any NBA team in the Western Conference, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I don't know if you can ever pay past your prime. I mean, you look at Cleveland. Everybody talk about the relevancy of them. They're just as old as San Antonio.
Yeah.
You have to look at Popovich and how he's won his 5 titles, Charlton, in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's won his title by having a different injection of players.
Yeah.
They haven't been the same players that's been on the roster winning 5 titles over the length of time that he's done it.
Yeah.
But he always finds a way with his coaching savvy, Charlton, to put the right bodies on the floor. That's understanding the game, understanding the ebb and flow. And that's what he has probably more than any other coach in the NBA. He doesn't just rely on the running gun like Steve Kerr does with the Warriors.
Yeah.
He doesn't rely on the bulliness, like Cleveland does with LeBron. He doesn't rely on the break your ankle like Boston does with
Kyrie.
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
It's just he goes out there and he finds the guys that work. You mentioned Kawhi Leonard earlier. He's been out all but 9 games this year, Charlton, and you look at the position that they are. If he comes back and has any resemblance, you got to recall last year, they had the Warriors until he got hurt.
Yeah, got his ankle stepped on.
Down.
Yeah.
And so this is a team with the right personnel, Charlton can make a run. You know, they don't look to go into the playoffs to be eliminated. They're too intelligent for that.
Yeah.
They're going to make you eliminate them. They're not going to eliminate themselves.
Yeah, and so we look forward to the ending of this push for the playoffs. We always look forward to that. Real quickly, men's college basketball top 10. Number 1, Villanova, and they're 20-1. Great season for Villanova. Number 2, Virginia's 20-1. Number 3 is Purdue out of the Big Ten at 21-2. Michigan State, with all their turmoil, 20-3. Number 5 is Duke, and they are 18-3, and they're still hanging in there. I mean, they had 3 losses, but they're still one of the top teams, it seems, every year. Number 6, Xavier. Number 7, Kansas. 8, Cincinnati. Number 9, Arizona, followed by number 10 at Texas Tech, and they are 17-4. So we look forward to some good college basketball coming up. I know we have the State of the Union, Big C. A lot of sports going on at the same time, but I want to get your thoughts before we close on this. If you're looking at an NBA championship, and you're looking at these young players that are playing in college basketball, will we get to the point, Big C, where I think it would be a mistake, but if we say you can't play the NBA unless you go 3 years of college, because I look at this college top 10, it's hard to know who's on what team because they're all one and done. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, it was at that point, over a decade ago, where it had to be at least your junior class before you could get drafted.
Yeah.
But, that's that antitrust thing. You think about it. It's antitrust that you can't stop somebody from working.
Yeah.
But it's not antitrust if you don't pay them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing in America. So
yeah.
It's hard to say you can stop somebody from earning a living. They eliminated straight from high school to the pros.
Yeah.
So they did the one and done. Guys just register for college. You don't have to go to class.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. We've seen that.
So, it's however you want to slice that pie to try to make it look legal, Charlton.
Yeah.
Everybody's in it to get something out of it.
Yeah.
The young players, when you look at the teams that win the NBA championships, Charlton, and you just have to only look at the last decade.
Yeah.
There's nobody right out of high school that has made anybody win a championship right into the league. And when you think about the most prominent kids right out of high school,
yeah.
Look at Kobe Bryant. Look at Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
Look at Tracy McGrady.
Yeah.
There's been a few players, Charlton, that came right out of high school.
LeBron, yeah.
LeBron's been the latest, but there hasn't been a plethora of guys, Charlton, that have come in and changed the face of the league.
That's a very good point.
There's a speckling here and there, and there's 4 or 5, that have done something prominent. Moses Malone years ago.
Yeah.
But Daryl Dock is a teammate of his, never achieved that same acclaim that Moses Malone did.
Yeah.
So it's not a guarantee because a young man can come into a league because he has so much upside, as they say.
Yeah.
They all have upside, whether they come from college or high school.
Yeah.
It's about getting them as cheap as you can, having them as long as you can.
That's a very good point.
They don't all pan out. And everybody that you've seen that's been successful, Charlton, coming out of high school, coming out of college in 1 year, there's 10 that have failed. And every one of those has been successful. There's 10 that have failed, but no one remembers these guys. We only want to think about the guy that's successful, not the guy that's now working as a security guard for some company.
That's a good point, Big C. So we got to keep people looking at that fact. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man rumble, Big C. What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, the commissioner today had some people in, some retired receivers, some retired coaches, some retired officials. What they're doing now is examining what is a catch in the NFL. What is a catch in the NFL, Charlton, is eliminating ultra-slow replay.
Yeah.
And having officials look at that.
Yeah.
That's what a catch is, because anybody can dissect anything they want. All right, you can show the slightest of movement anytime you want.
Yeah.
But let's get back to a catch is a catch. If he has the ball and you don't see any separation as a catch, don't bring me back this ultra-slow replay.
Yeah.
The same thing that the official has to look at.
Yeah.
And if you can decipher it in real time, there's a catch or not a catch, that's a catch.
Well, Big C, that makes sense because sometimes I don't know what's a catch and what's not a catch. But what I do know is every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always want to tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence or sexual assault. There's just no cause for it. If you know anybody going through that garbage, please call 911, because no woman should ever have to deal with that garbage on her own. And as we tell you on every Big C sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.